Another year, another Zelda game, and this was not at all what I expected. Admittedly, I didn't bother to pay attention to any of the marketing because, well, it's Zelda. I was going to buy it anyway. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. We'll cover everything in due time. As many of you know, the Legend of Zelda franchise has been setting the bar and captivating players with unforgettable adventures for nearly 40 years, boasting over 20 games since its debut on the NES. In 2019, Nintendo pulled the most Nintendo move ever in remaking Link's Awakening by adapting its 8-bit roots into a charming toy-like diorama aesthetic. This clever presentation not only updated a game from an era of limited visuals, but also laid a perfect foundation for new titles with a nostalgic touch, appealing to both longtime fans and young gamers alike.
Get the fuck out of my room! I'm playing Minecraft!
All of this culminating in our newest entry, The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. After Zelda is taken by Ganon, players take control of Link as he single-handedly storms Ganon's lair to rescue her. Coming off of Link's Awakening, this version of Link feels like a far more seasoned warrior, setting up the stark contrast in what's about to come. Just as Link defeats Ganon, a mysterious rift opens up and pulls him in. Before being fully consumed, he fires off a final arrow, fracturing the crystal imprisoning Zelda. As she escapes the expanding rift, the player is immediately met with her physical limitations. Her slower run speed and weaker jump height make the transition from controlling Link to Zelda feel jarring, intensifying the sense of urgency and danger. Rifts begin to appear throughout Hyrule, claiming many of its inhabitants and replacing some in seats of power with ghoulish copies. Upon returning to Hyrule Castle, the copied king frames the emergence of the rifts on the princess and has her imprisoned. In a moment of hopelessness, Tri, an interdimensional fairy-like being, appears to Zelda. To help her escape, Tri creates a staff for Zelda, allowing her to channel Tri's abilities to summon echoes, copies of items and monsters. Trailing from the top of Tri's head is a series of triangles. Each echo consumes a certain number of these, and summoning echoes beyond the triangle limit causes the oldest ones to despawn, maintaining the total within Tri's capacity. As Zelda and Tri close rifts and rescue Tri's friends, Tri's powers grow, granting additional triangles, reducing the cost of certain echoes, and summoning echoes from a distance. And, in the late game, Zelda can have Dampé create automatons. These optional little robots act just like echoes, but with a little more muscle. On her own, Zelda's controls are fairly limited. Her primary action is a spin move used to cut grass. However, one key improvement in Echoes of Wisdom compared to Link's Awakening is that Zelda can swim from the start. With Tri's help, she can also bind objects to her location, moving them in sync with her, or reverse the bond to move herself alongside the object. After defeating a copy of Link early in the game, Zelda gains the Sword Fighter form, allowing her to channel Link's strength and engage in direct combat, much like Link in the prologue. As you progress, Zelda will acquire a bow and bombs in Sword Fighter form, expanding her combat options even further. Zelda can acquire various outfits, largely by completing side quests, though 3 variants are acquired with amiibos. Some outfits offer enhancements to some of Zelda's abilities, such as healing faster when laying on beds, increasing spin area, or even talking to cats. However, the best enhancements come from accessories. At the start, Zelda has a single accessory slot, but up to 5 slots can be earned by giving rupees to the Great Fairy, greatly enhancing the gameplay experience. Though this is a comparatively smaller Zelda game, exploring the map feels surprisingly vast. Beyond the diverse overworld terrains, there are plenty of hidden caves with treasures like heart containers to boost your max HP, might crystals for enhancing sword fighter form abilities, and ingredients for making smoothies. Smoothies are this game's cooking mechanic, offering a range of effects based on the drinks you create. As usual, I spent a good chunk of my time in the early game exploring before touching the main story. Though in hindsight, this wasn't entirely necessary, since you'll visit every region throughout your adventure, and side quests will have you combing through those regions' nooks and crannies. Always pay special attention to those crannies. Each time I entered a new region, I kept my head on a swivel, searching for anything that could be echoed to add to my Echo Decks. Patent pending. As someone who loves collectibles and games, this Pokemon-like mechanic made exploration even more rewarding, offering creative freedom in solving puzzles. Though, I often found myself relying on the same few echoes, leaving a large portion unused. I've avoided giving specific examples of how each echo or ability can be used because for any given puzzle, there are countless solutions. After Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, this kind of creative puzzle solving seems to be Nintendo's new defining feature for the series, and it's something I can totally get behind. But there's always something I can't fully get behind, so with that in mind, let's dive into a few of my criticisms. I'll start with the least important, as this is mostly personal preference. The aesthetic. While there's nothing inherently wrong with it, and I do enjoy the style that debuted with the Link's Awakening remake, I can't help but feel this adventure would have been so much cooler set in the world of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. That said, I do want to see more traditional style Zelda games, and I'd love to see some of those made with pixel art. As a result of the toy-like diorama aesthetic, players can manage their way onto and freely walk around the treetops. While this isn't an issue for exploration, especially since the game clearly isn't aiming for realism, something about walking on top of the trees just felt wrong. It felt like a bug, like I wasn't actually supposed to be up there. Another aspect that felt a bit underwhelming was the amiibo functionality. While you can unlock 3 outfit variants, everything else is just smoothie ingredients. I would have liked to see more amiibo exclusive outfits, or even accessories. Speaking of outfits and accessories, I really enjoyed how they enhanced Zelda's abilities, and I felt that for her first mainline game as the protagonist, all of her powers should have been her own, boosted by these items. The inclusion of Sword Fighter form, which is essentially just playing as Link, kind of undermines the novelty of this being Zelda's game. Additional outfits and accessories could have weaponized her spin action in creative ways, keeping the focus on her and showing her growth throughout this adventure. When I first started the game, I wasn't all that driven to pursue much content beyond the main story. But as Zelda and Tri's abilities expanded, the gameplay loop became much more engaging, and before I knew it, I was completing every side quest. That said, there are still a few challenges that without Nintendo offering a trophy system, felt a bit too tedious for my taste, though they'd certainly appeal to the more hardcore Zelda fans out there. After being utterly spoiled by Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, I really didn't expect Echoes of Wisdom to be much more than a side story or spin-off, so I was pleasantly surprised to discover a genuinely fun, self-contained adventure with distinct gameplay, all wrapped up in a well-crafted narrative that meaningfully expands the series' lore. In my eyes, despite a few minor nitpicks, Echoes of Wisdom once again reaffirms the consistently great quality we've come to expect from the Legend of Zelda series, and I'll keep diving into whatever this franchise throws at me. But what are your thoughts on Echoes of Wisdom, and what would you like to see from the future of the Zelda franchise? I've said it before, but personally I'd love to see the series finally do something meaningful with a Linkle. If you've enjoyed what you've witnessed here today, please consider leaving a like and subscribe, or check out some of my other content. And as always, I hope you'll join me in the next one. I've been Pungent Funk. Keep it funky, fellas.